Hello everyone, welcome to New Gen Politics. So Hillary Clinton has claimed this week that Trump will withdraw the US from NATO if elected, being quoted as saying, "He means what he says." Now usually, I disagree with almost everything Hillary Clinton says, but in this case, she's actually kind of right. She's fear-mongering, of course, but this time her fear-mongering has a basis in reality. Former Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton warned this week that former President Trump will try to withdraw the US from NATO if he wins re-election in November. Clinton made the claim during remarks at the Munich Security Conference in Germany, telling US allies that they should take Trump's claims to heart after the former president warned NATO countries to contribute their fair share. Quote, "We have a long struggle ahead of us, and the obvious point to make about Donald Trump is to take him literally and seriously. He means what he says. People did not take him literally and seriously in 2016. Now he is telling us what he intends to do, and people who try to wish it away, brush it away, are living in an alternative reality." So pretty strong words here. And she's kind of right. Trump does usually do what he says. He means what he says. And to the best of ability, he really tries to fulfill his campaign promises. And something he has been concerned about in recent weeks is how much other countries are contributing to the NATO budget versus the US. And so Trump wants to actually have a dialogue about, is this a necessary thing for the US, or are we just burning money when other countries could be protecting themselves? Clinton's comments seem directed towards NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, who has said that he is confident the US will, quote, "remain a strong ally and committed ally, regardless of the outcome this November." That's raising flags, his famous last words, but let's continue on. Trump has been heavily critical of NATO on the campaign trail in recent weeks, doubling down on his claim that member countries should not receive protection if they do not pay their share towards NATO's budget. Stoltenberg did say last week that Trump's rhetoric does, quote, "undermine the security of the alliance." Quote, "The whole idea of NATO is that an attack on one ally will trigger a response from the whole alliance, and as long as we stand behind that message together, we prevent any military attack on any ally. Any suggestion that we are not standing up for each other, that we are not going to protect each other, that does undermine the security of all of us." The NATO chief announced that 18 of the alliance's 31 members are on track to meet their pledges of contributing 2% of GDP to the group. European states are on track to contribute $380 billion this year, and Germany will meet its 2% pledge for the first time since the Cold War. Currently, only 11 countries have fulfilled the pledge of spending 2% of their GDP on the NATO defense budget. These countries are Poland, the United States, Greece, Estonia, Lithuania, Finland, Romania, Hungary, Latvia, the United Kingdom, and the Slovak Republic. Every other country falls short of that desired 2%. And allegedly, they said 18 countries this year are going to make that 2% budget, but that's still not nearly enough, especially considering that the pledge to pay 2% of all these countries says that it will be fulfilled by 2025. So they have one more year to get up to budget, and some of these countries are way below budget. Look at the end there, Spain, Belgium, Luxembourg, paying nowhere close to 2%. And if you want to look at the actual spending, monetary-wise, not percent-wise, it's not even close to how much the US contributes compared to every other country. So when we look back at this article and see what this guy Stoltenberg is saying, that the whole idea of NATO is if one country is attacked, every other country will get involved. And saying that we're not going to stand up for other countries undermines the security of all of us. Well, actually, no, it doesn't. Because one, Trump's not saying he won't stand up for you. He's saying he won't stand up for you unless you pay. There's a big difference between not fulfilling your end of a contract when the other party has fulfilled their end, or not fulfilling your part of the contract when the other party has not fulfilled their end of the contract. And that's what's happening, is most of the NATO countries have not fulfilled their end of the contract of paying their 2%. Where Trump is saying, we've fulfilled our end. In fact, we go way overboard. Currently, the US is the second highest contributor, Poland being the first at 3.9%, but the US pays 3.49%. Why? Our goal is 2%. We agreed to 2%, and we're paying almost double that? Why would we do that? That's not in our interests. And so you hear all this constant rhetoric from the European countries complaining and worrying that Trump's going to pull the US out of NATO. Well, guess what? I'm going to say it. I'm really going to say it. The Europeans are a bunch of whiny crybabies. All they do is bash the United States, and then anytime something happens and they're incapable of paying for it, they go to America and try to guilt us into paying for it. Oh, you don't want to protect us. You don't care about Europe. You don't care about democracy. You know, it's never with any gratitude that Europe actually asks us to pay money. It is always from a place of entitlement. Europe feels entitled to America's help, and they're not. They are in no way entitled to our help. And I'm not saying that under some circumstances it isn't good to help them, because it is sometimes, but only if you have an agreement, only if those interests actually help the American people. And right now they're not. And people are panicking even more because Trump said this recently at one of his rallies in South Carolina.
One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Yeah, the guy asked the question, well, if we don't pay, you'll still protect us, right? Trump says, no, we're not going to protect you. Russia can do whatever they want. And then the Europeans feel entitled. They're like, why? You're evil, America. You're evil for letting Russia do whatever they want. Well, no, you didn't fulfill your end of the contract. It's a contract. This is how countries operate. It's not from benevolence. America has been exceptionally benevolent to Europe, especially how whiny and demanding and chaotic and self-destructive they are. Countries operate completely differently from normal empathy because they have different interests. And to expect America, just because we've historically been pretty benevolent, to keep funding the bill, and then they expect us to fund the bill. That's why Trump's getting in and saying, no, we're not going to fund it. Why would we? And then the Europeans are shocked and they're horrified. It's like, no, you didn't pay, you don't get protection. Sorry. And so maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this will encourage the other European countries to fulfill their promises, to actually increase their military budget, to focus on training. Because what happens when someday, when a very hardcore American president says, yeah, we're not going to help Europe in any way. We're going to cut off the taps. No money. They won't have the ability to protect themselves. They've been so entirely unilaterally dependent on America for everything for decades that I don't think a lot of these European countries can sustain themselves without America. I don't even think it's possible. And that's ridiculous because it's not our job. This may sound extreme, but genuinely, if Russia decided to take over the entire continent of Europe, it really is not our problem. I'm not saying that we shouldn't get involved. I'm not saying that we shouldn't prevent that. But from a country standpoint, from what is in the best interest of our country and our people, it is literally not our problem what happens in Europe. Who takes over whom? It is not our problem. And that's what Trump realizes, is that the American people have enough struggles in their life. We do not need to be sending 3.49% of our GDP over to Europe when they refuse to fulfill their end of the contract. So we'll see what happens if these 18 countries actually meet their goal, but it's 18 out of 31. You're still barely over half. And I doubt that in the next year, all 31 will be able to get up to their 2% pledge. So I actually am in favor of Trump just saying, we're just going to leave NATO. If you guys have no interest in paying, if this doesn't serve our interest, there's no point in us doing it anymore. Overall, this just highlights this crazy theory that America should not put America first. Every country should seek what's best for themselves. And they can do that in a reciprocal manner with other countries. But its citizens of its own country are most important. That's the law of every country. America has not acted in that way for several decades now. They've acted in ways that prop up Europeans, illegal immigrants, and basically everyone else around the world before the average American citizen. And Trump is sick of it. And a lot of people are sick of it. I'm sick of it. America first is about putting America first. And going way back to what Hillary Clinton said at the beginning, she knows he means it. Trump loves America. He wants to put Americans first. And guess what? Trump isn't the only one. He's not the only American first candidate. Look at Vivek. Look at all these other people who are supporting him. Tucker Carlson. There is more and more American first people now. And so whether it happens now or it happens in 10 years or 20 years, eventually America will pull out of NATO if they don't fulfill their obligations. Trump's just giving them a warning that America is going to start caring about Americans again. And so the rest of the world needs to wake up to that fact and act in ways that secures their own self-preservation without a dependence on the United States. Now that you've heard what I think, please let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.